And look, I'm actually here. Because if you remember last week, I said, I wonder if I'm going to be able to do this next Saturday morning. Oh, well, I am here. And boy, it has been a most interesting 24 hours. Yeah. Really, it's probably been more of an interesting 12 hours or 18 hours. I don't really remember. I know at this time yesterday I was just kind of waking up, and I'm surprised I'm even awake right now because I did not go to bed last night until about 2:30 this morning. So I was I was actually signing on to my computer at 6:48. So I got about a little over like 4 hours and 20 minutes of sleep. I'm probably going to die later today. Yes. Friday the 13th was yesterday. And my league had a wonderful Friday the 13th costume party at our local brewery, 0 Day. And fortunately, all the right people who know how to make costumes showed up at that one. There were some great costumes. I saw video. People looked like they were having a hell of a good time. And yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad my league got out and did the meet and greet, and sold merch, and enjoyed themselves. Fortunately, I'm not a good costume maker. My one attempt at like a mermaid totally sucked. I look like an Orion slave girl who was trying, a bad Orion slave girl who was trying to portray a mermaid. Yeah, needless to say, the people who knew how to make costumes were there yesterday, which was great. I wasn't there because I was I was in Laurel, Maryland, closer to Washington, D.C. than I was to Baltimore. And I was down there for the Lacey Knight offensive clinic, more or less to kick off what is called the BMore Classic. There's a tournament going on right now. It's actually starting at, I was told the first whistle is at 8:45 this morning. So there are some Derby girls getting up, getting ready, probably a few of them regretting the fact that they drank a little too much last night, but that's us. But I went down yesterday for a 3-hour clinic. Let me tell you, I left out of here a little. It was about 3:30. It was actually closer to 3:30. It was funny. I'll tell you a bit more. So I was suffering from a lot of anxiety about yesterday. I mean, I really was. It's a 3-hour clinic. I'd been to one of Lacey's clinics before. Lacey is physical. She is. She's real physical. So I was worried. I'm like, oh my God, am I actually going to make it through here? I hope so. And so I spent the day trying to, relax, not worry, not have anxiety about it, and just generally get my gear ready and take off. And I did. 3:30, I left out of here. My goal was to get down to Laurel at 6 o'clock. Be there when the doors open. And I did. But it was funny because I pulled into the parking lot and locked the car. And as I was locking the car, I checked the time on my phone, and it was 5:59. Unfortunately, I was in the wrong building. I had to go one building over. So I was the third person to sign in instead of the first. If I had actually gone to the right building, I probably would have been the first. But anyway, it was a nice drive down. I took a route where there wasn't any road construction, and I knew I wouldn't get hit in too many bottlenecks. And I only had a couple of bottlenecks when I was on the highway. Encountered several BMW drivers who lived up to the saying that BMW drivers are enormous piss lords. And they were. But I got down there with my gear and started gearing up. Ran into somebody right off the bat who had been at Satan's Little Helpers Clinic on July 1st. So we were conversing. And then another woman came in who was from Bucksmont, who was at the clinic as well. So the three of us kind of like started yakking and talking a little bit. And then we got out on the floor. Now, we were doing the clinic in the area where they're actually going to be playing today. So they were laying the floor out last night. They were laying everything out last night while we were warming up. And the floor is played on what they called sport court. And this was my first time on sport court. And the sport court, it's plastic tile. And each tile was probably about, I'd have to say 8 inches, something like that, each one. And they lay it down. It's supposed to be cheaper and more economical because, if there's a damaged part, you just rip up the tile and lay down new tile and stuff like that. But it feels weird to skate on. At first, when you get out there, there's a little bit of chatter. It does feel like you're skating outdoors for a bit. And I considered changing my wheels, but somebody else, a lot of other people had 93 wheels on. I could tell by looking. A lot of people were using radar wheels. So it was like, I just looked at the color. It's like, no, they're all on 93s. I'm good. Yeah. There was the first partner I had. She just put on new wheels, and she said the floor was slick, and she was having trouble. She was one of the people from Charms who was actually sponsoring the BMore Classic and was sponsoring the clinic, and her name was Tiger. Thai as in Thailand, Gur, and she was my first hitting partner. We had to do the first thing we did was we had to do stuff was like toe stopping, back and forth real quick. Okay. Then we had to do a hitting drill. And it was like you hit your partner, recycle, they come back, they hit you, recycle, they go back, they hit you. You do that for like, a minute on each side. Right off the bat, I knew. I was like, oh my God. She was laying into me. She really was. It was like, okay, I got it. Don't give. So I started like throwing in the good hits, hard hits as well. And the whole clinic was kind of like that. Lacey was teaching us a lot of group dynamics, how to work together as a group to get your jammer through the pack and to get some points. So when we first started out, a lot of it was just like, small groups of 3. And there was a point when we were working in a group of 4 where I said, I need like a 30-second breather, guys. And I told them, I said, I'm 61 years old. I said, I'm a rookie. That was the only time I had to do that. That's not to mean I wasn't getting exerted. I went through a lot of water last night. I took all 3 of my clean canteens, which hold 20 ounces of water each. And I refilled 2 of them. They had a 5-gallon bucket of water down there. And I refilled 2 of my canteens. I was downing water. I don't care. I went through 100 ounces of water last night, and I sweat the majority of it out. I did not have to go to the bathroom. I did not do so until I got back here. And I drank a lot of water when I got back here. So there was a lot of dehydration going on. And I had to take that one breather. And it was after that we started getting into larger groups. And she began making the groups larger with more people, which meant you could cycle in and out of the practice. So you do like a couple of hits and then cycle out, let somebody else do it, go back in and play another position. And I started doing this, and I got a lot of derby players will tell you sometimes it seems like an hour or so into a practice, they'll start feeling a second wind coming on. And I did. I felt that second wind coming on. I think a lot of it was just like once you get the adrenaline going from taking a couple of good hits, then all of a sudden you get that win. And like I said, we were taking hits. She would tell us to dial it down in some instances. And other times she didn't. I was involved in the last few practices. Well, everybody was involved in the last few practices at the end. And she was basically like, turn it loose, about time, Really, it was just like, go. It's just like you're at a bout. Turn it loose, go. And we were taking full power hits. We were getting slammed into by the jammer. I mean, literally at one point, we got hit by one jammer, and she knocked over 2 of the 3 people. I wasn't one of them, which was really surprising. I'll tell you, that's another interesting thing. So I got to run into some amazing people I'd met at other clinics. It's just like we travel in the same groups. We tend to go to the same clinics. And one of the people I ran into, she saw I had my Harrisburg jersey on, and she just like started making like a sad face. She was like, the last time I was in Harrisburg, I broke my ankle. I was looking at her, and I looked at her helmet, and it was, the player's name is Wonky Donkey. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. You broke your ankle during our October bout. It wasn't our August bout, it was our October bout. Or maybe it was our August bout. I'd have to go back and take a look. I said August bout. And she was just like, yeah, she broke her ankle, and she was just finally, getting back on skates after all of that. Because it was a serious fracture. I mean, she really messed up her ankle bad. I've got it on video if you want to hear the screaming. Seriously, she was in pain. That we actually held up the game for 22 minutes because of that. Because we had to wait for the paramedics to show up and take her out. So I was working with her for part of the evening. And then I finally just kind of filtered away to another group. And I got in with a bunch of other like really hardcore players, and we were just like slamming and beating. And yeah, it was Reaping Beauty from York had told me once before that when she's doing a bout, she doesn't feel the pain. She rarely feels the hits. It's afterwards, once the adrenaline starts dying down, that you start feeling the hits. And I'm having to drive like 2.5 hours back from Maryland. Man, by the time I hit Baltimore, by the time I got off of I-95, hit 695 coming through Baltimore, I started moving my legs to work the brake and the gas. I was like, ow. I was. And I got out at York to pump gas. And I literally was just like, I cannot move. I hurt everywhere. And I was laughing maniacally because of that. I was literally laughing like a crazy person because it's like, I can't believe I hurt everywhere. My shoulders hurt, my sides hurt, my back hurt, my legs hurt. It's just like, wow, it was rough. It was a taste of bouting. It really was. And I remembered as much as I could from when, I've been in practice and listened to what the coaches have said. And one of the things our coaches are always saying is get lower, get lower, get lower. Well, I'm a blocker. That makes sense. I'm not a jammer. I did try some jamming, and it was like when it got toward the end where they needed experienced jammers, it was like, let the experienced jammers do this shit. I still would love to learn how to be a pivot. And I got to learn some of this stuff. So I have to work my way into that. But it's possible. I'm never really going to be anything more but a blocker. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And I kept remembering, get lower, mostly because people I was playing with were experienced derby players, and they were getting down. And I had remembered something that Lacey said. Lacey and Tarantula had both said this during their clinics, is that all your helmets should be at the same height. So when the brace and the wall next to me are going down, I made certain I could look into the eyes of both of them without having to look down. I got as low as I could get. And when they were low, we got shoulders together, butts out, got our outer legs set so it got in on the edges. I actually had a couple of jammers bounce off me because once I got my edges engaged on my skates, and the edges is really, it's the side of your wheel. You're pressing down and you're getting that side of your wheel down so you're not moving. My wheels don't slip. I don't slide. When I try to stop, I don't get that squeal. But I was engaging my edges, and I had a couple of jammers go into me at near full speed. A couple of them got through. I let one jammer get through, and she took out the brace. And I said that was my fault. The brace, the woman playing brace was like, don't worry about it. It's cool. Shit happens, But one time she ran into me and she just bounced. She hit me and she just bounced off. And then she slammed. As she hit me, she sort of slid off, took out the wall next to me and took out the brace. It took me a minute to kind of like comprehend what had happened. It was like she hit me and then took the other two players out. For the most part, I didn't take a lot of falls. I took a few falls. Everybody fell. There were a couple of like really nasty falls from high speed hits and stuff. Most of my hits were not that bad. When I went down, I got small. The worst hit I had was actually during a drill where you were supposed to push the brace and part of the wall out of the way, and I got slammed into and I got pushed backwards. And derby tracks, so where the outer and inner edges are, they're raised. You actually have tape over like a small piece of nylon rope that goes all the way around the track. I caught that with the back of my wheels, and my skates came out from underneath me, and I went down. And when I got up, I said, man, I felt that in my hips. That hurt. That was the only really bad fall I ever took. And it was really not much was going on. I got pushed back into the rope and couldn't get over it because the way I had my wheels placed, I just went down. So I think the most interesting, playing with my foot here. I think the most interesting thing was as the night wore on, a few of the skaters actually got off skates. And I don't know if it was because they were tired or sore or what, I was taking breaks too, so I'm not going to say anything. But the real funny thing was they put we need 4 white. We were in black and whites, and I had my white scrimmage jersey on. And they'd say, we need 4 white blockers. We need 4 white players. We need this. And people were actually kind of holding back. They didn't want to go out. And I was going out as much as possible toward the end. I mean, it was like if I could be out there, I was out there. And in fact, I got called out. I got called out by my derby name. I got to use my derby name last night. No, I'm not telling you what it is. But they would call. I actually got called out a couple of times. And it was funny because it was like the one player, she was like, we need a couple of players. We need some players. She goes, fuck it, come on in. She'd point at me. It was like, fuck it, come in. And I'd come in. Lacey Knight actually called on me a couple of times to come in and join the group. So, because it's like, you're the goat, okay? Get in here. Just happened to be standing there. She was like, you're the goat. And she was like, another time, she was like, I need a player. You, come on. Lacey actually leaned into me at one point, and that woman is solid. She does a lot of CrossFit. And I was part of the wall, and she was giving a demonstration on how to lean into the wall and push them out. And I'm like pushing back a little bit, but she is solid, man. Oh my God. When you run into someone who is a real honest to goodness, almost professional league athlete, man, the difference is staggering. I did. I told the women I was with later, I said, man, that was like a fucking wall was laying on me. She was. I even told her later, I said, that, I got to actually run a couple of drills with you, and you leaned on me at one point. That was kind of cool. I did. I was fangirling. I was like, wow, Lacey leaned on me. I loved it. And talked to her and told her, I had been with Satan a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, "Oh, I love Satan." They used to be teammates. Lacey's retired from skating now, so. But like I was saying, we were having trouble getting people coming out. I couldn't understand it. It was like, I told one woman from another league, I said, "Why doesn't anyone want to go out? I mean, this is Lacey Knight, man. Get out here and learn this shit." And she's like, "I know. What the fuck?" So yeah, we were going out, and we were actually working really good together. We were doing one drill where we were trying to goat someone, which is basically you corral one player and hold them back so that the other team has no control of the pack. And that was one of the things. And if you can break through, she was a good brace. And she was like, come on, brace, white. And we come up and we like get into position and hold instantly. And you had just a split second to get into position and hold it. And it was incredible because I was actually keeping up with these people for the most part. So that was really my big takeaway, is that at the end of the night, I was on my skates. I was doing drills right up to the very end. And this time we did go a full 3 hours. Some clinics, it'll be like the last 20 minutes or so. It's a sit down D gear and people BS and stuff like that. And the one running the clinic will give you some words of wisdom or answer questions, stuff like that. Lacey started right at 7. We took breaks every so often, 30 seconds to get water and stuff. And then when we were in our larger groups, you had a chance to like relax, reset, talk to some of the other players about things that you were doing. And at 10 o'clock, I was like, okay, we're done. It went the full 3 hours. There was a lot of action. And my biggest fear that I was going to like die out and not make it did not come true. I really, at the end of the night, I even told Lacey, I said it had been one of my goals to actually make it through. I said, this was the first real skating clinic that I've made it through. I said, I was at another skating clinic, but I didn't make it all the way through. And I said, I was, wasn't in quite as good a shape. as I am now, which still leaves something to be desired. But I said it had been my goal to make it all the way through. I was really proud I made it through. And it was my first chance to really get out and do that to prove myself. It was really my second chance. Like I said, I've been in another skating clinic, but I only made it halfway through before I got heat exhaustion. Last night, I kept making certain I kept hydrated. It was hot. It was really hot. I went through 2 jerseys because we changed into our black and whites about halfway through. And both my jerseys were soaked. Everyone was dripping wet. Several of the girls were complaining about how much the sweat was stinging and hurting their eyes. And it does. When you start sweating a lot, it's just like you got all this crap coming down in your face and it gets in your eyes and it hurts. So, yeah. I went. All my gear was my pads. Everything was wet. When I pulled my pads out of my bag last night when I got home, my knee pads, the insides of my knee pads were still damp. I sweat up a storm last night, but it was worth it. I have to say, I remembered a lot of the stuff my coaches said, and I did it. It was just like, yeah, get low, do what you're supposed to be doing. And I was working on blocking, and I was primarily a blocker. I ran offense, jammed a little bit, but I'm not a jammer, but I learned how to run offense. And I'm hoping I can impart some of this knowledge to the team, because we did learn a lot of great stuff last night. And I was thinking about it all the way home about, okay, what stuff if you're asked, what do you want to go over? But it was, to me, it was more about just making it through the night to kind of prove to myself I can hang with these people. It really was. It really was to me about learning stuff, but most importantly, being able to hang with the big girls. And I was. I've hung with my team, but I know my team. And I know what kind of level we sometimes play, when we're scrimmaging and stuff. This was completely different because you were having people coming from all different levels, from all different leagues. And towards the end, when we were out there running 2 packs, Lacey said, turn it on. It's about day. Turn it on. And it was just like you had to move quick. You had to move fast. You had to get your shit together. And you had to be ready to stop that jammer. I remember there was one point where I literally had 5 seconds to move up to position, drop, move up to position, engage with the brace, and get set into the wall before we were hit. We were hit like almost the second we were set. And it was like, bam, it was hard. It was holder, stuff like that. So I'm glad I got to participate in it. I'm glad I got to meet new people. And I'm glad I was able to just do this. Because if nothing else, I can always point to this moment in my life and say, Friday the 13th in July of 2018, I got to hang with the big girls. I got to hang with the big girls in a bout situation, and I did not fail, which means I can hang with my team. I'm like I said, I knew I could hang with my team. This was, can I hang well enough with other people and not embarrass myself, or more importantly, embarrass my league? And I did. I hung in there. I hung in there, and people knew I was the only one down from hard. I think there was a couple of people who were like the only ones from their leagues who had traveled some distance to get there. But yeah, it was great. I loved it. And I have another clinic coming up next month, and this is going to be held in Harrisburg. So yeah, I'm doing it. So it was fun. I was still sore when I woke up this morning. I will probably be dying of exhaustion later tonight. I would not be surprised if I fall asleep at some point during the day. Oh, and this. We got our B. This is for the BMore Classic. It's a B to represent that we're trying to be more when we play. This is my B. So I got my first Derby sticker. Yeah. My first Derby sticker. And the tournament's going on today and tomorrow. And I'm looking at the clock right now. I know in an hour the whistle blows for the first bout. I think I'm going to go down. This has been a Derby week, like I said. I was on skates for Derby 4 out of 5 weekdays. Won't be on skates today. And I doubt very much if I'll be doing anything else but observing. But you know what? Maybe I'll go down and run into some of the people I was with last night. We could swap horror stories. That's really what it's about. A lot of Derby is really making friendships and utilizing them. Making friendships and just getting to know other people, getting to know their way of playing, their way of thinking, and using it for yourself. I learned something last night about bracing. Something that I wasn't actually doing right, or at least not right according to one of these players. And I went over and I asked her, I says, could you show me what I should be doing? And she showed me. She says, this is how we do it on our team. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try to utilize that when I go back to my team. And I will try to utilize that as much as possible. And I understood where she was coming from. And the reasoning she gave for it made a lot of sense. So, you pick up stuff from players. That's really what the Derby community is about. You learn from other people. You learn from your coaches, and all your coaches are former Derby players anyway, so they know all this crap to begin with. And that's literally what I'm going through right now. So you learn from your coaches, and I will say, and I've already said it a couple of times, I utilize stuff that I remembered that I had drilled into me from practice and from scrimmage, and I utilized it last night, and it went well. Nobody looked at me and said, Sean, the disbeliever, Sean. Nah. Nobody did that. So I hung in. I did good. And I'm proud. I really am, for the first time in a long time, proud that I was able to do something that I really was scaring the shit out of me. It really was. It was scaring the shit out of me that I was going to be an embarrassment, and I wasn't. So, there you go. So that was my Derby experience. I'll get this put up. I'll post some of the photos in the blog as well. But I was being more to be more last night, and it was great. You probably have noticed I haven't been doing any posts. That's because I really have been tired a lot this week, and just have not been in a writing mood. So since this was kind of a derby week, maybe next week I'll get some more posts out. I know I owe you guys at least a couple of excerpts, so I will get those out. I will do my best. And we'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye.